Let's take a look now at some of the latest warnings. In the southwest, a wind change earlier this evening saw the fire at Carlisle River in the Otway Ranges breach containment lines as it burns towards Gellibrand. It remains at an emergency level. Residents there are being told to take shelter immediately. It's now too late to leave. Now, further north, a grass fire near Larralia is still out of control. It's also too late for residents there to leave. Emergency warnings are in place for those between Lismore and Carrara to take shelter indoors. In the northwest, near the Grampians, a watch and act remains in place for residents near Balmoral. In Talangatuk East, residents are being warned the threat has reduced, but they should be ready to act as the situation could change at any time. Meanwhile, on the other side of the state, near the Alpine region, watch and act warnings remain in place for bushfires in Wanangata Valley. And for fires further north towards the New South Wales border as bushfires continue to burn near Walwa. Well, let's get more on this with Jason Heffernan. He is the Chief Fire Officer with Victoria's Country Fire Authority. Jason, thanks so much for your time this evening. Can you bring us up to date on the areas that are most under threat tonight?
The areas of concern for fire authorities as we go into the evening hours obviously remains that Carlisle River fire, which, as we know, this afternoon broke its containment lines and then travelled under a westerly winds towards Gellibrand. That will continue to travel in that direction, and then as the southwesterly change is now starting to affect that fire ground, we will see that that fire progress then in a northeasterly direction. Emergency warnings have been updated to reflect the current situation for that fire. We are expecting those southwesterly winds to remain very strong for the next couple of hours, so communities in and around the Carlisle River area are asked to maintain situational awareness by having that Vic Emergency app and following the direction of fire authorities.
How quickly have conditions changed? I mean, with the wind that we saw tonight, the wind change, what impact have they had on those fire fronts and the battle against those fires?
Well, it's been an interesting fire day across the state. For most of the state, they got to very hot temperatures very early on in the day, and particularly for places in the northwest like Walpurgis and Hopetoun to break the all-time Victorian temperature record at 48.9 degrees. They got there quite rapidly, and of course the fire situation was extreme in those areas very early. Now, the Carlisle River fire, because it was further south, it had an inversion, so a bit of a lid on that fire for quite a lot of the day. It took till about 3, 4 o'clock this afternoon before that inversion was able to fully break when the fire ground got to about 44 degrees. And when that happened, we saw those winds mix down, and that's when we saw the fire pick up across those containment lines and then continued on burning into the bush and towards communities. That inversion now, because it has broken down, those winds will continue now for the next couple of hours. They will get stronger, and it won't be till about 10 o'clock this evening before we start to see some abatement of those winds across the Carlisle River fire.
Well, Jason, as you mentioned, with such high temperatures recorded across the state, how much more difficult is it for firefighters to tackle these blazes? I mean, the conditions must be so challenging.
It's exceptionally difficult for firefighters and all emergency service personnel working out on these fires right across the state, just as it is difficult for community. We're all out there doing what we can in those 40-degree heat. Obviously, so heat health is a consideration for us. And our firefighters, no different to the community, take the same advice. Continue to drink water, lots of water regularly. Get rest and shade where you can. Rotate crews and try and keep cool as much as possible. For our fire grounds in the north of the state, and particularly that Walwa fire ground, we're going to see 40-degree days for the next 8 days. So, firefighters will really need to manage their fatigue levels. They'll really need to manage how they deal with their hydration to ensure that they remain in peak physical fitness in order to continue to battle these fire grounds into and across the week.
And what's your advice for residents who are under threat from these fires that are still ongoing?
For residents right across Victoria, we are asking you to keep, as I said, situationally aware, know what's going on around you. Have the Vic Emergency app. If you're going to go to bed early tonight, please take it with you. Don't put your phone on silent. make sure you're able to hear it. Set your watch zone around your property tonight, because particularly with these winds, as I said, they are going to remain strong for a number of hours yet. We might still have a need to continue to further warn communities. And if you do that, at least we know that you're going to get that activation and that early alert. And likewise, we know there's been a lot of areas across Victoria that have power outages, some tens of thousands of homes off power at the moment for a number of reasons, whether it be because of the fires or through the heat. So again, having that battery powered radio tuned to your emergency broadcaster and just sitting there just in case, so you get to keep aware of what's happening around you.
And Jason, can you describe for us the ongoing effort to put these blazes out or to contain them? How long do you think the work will continue?
Yeah, the challenge is there is no rain reasonably foreseeable on the forecast for at least the next 2 to 3 weeks. So it is going to be a long haul. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon for fire authorities here in Victoria, and it's going to be many weeks, up to even 8 weeks for some of these fires, for us to be able to completely contain, patrol, and get these fires to a situation where we're confident that we're able to walk away and leave them. So there are many, many, many more days and weeks ahead, which is, again, why I thank our emergency service workers, whether they be volunteer or career, whether they be firefighters, ambulance, police, council workers. Everyone is out there doing their best for community. And again, I shout out to the employers of our volunteers. I know many will be going back to work after the holiday period. If you do have a volunteer who's an employee, please, it's one way that you can contribute to the firefighting effort is by allowing your employee to be released with our brigades. It's one of the simple things, but it means a lot to us, and it means a lot to the communities that are affected by fire at the moment.
Indeed, we really appreciate those efforts. And Jason Heffernan, Chief Fire Officer with the Country Fire Authority, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, next, let's speak to Dean Narramore at the Bureau of Meteorology to talk more about the record temperatures we're seeing in Victoria and South Australia. Dean, we haven't seen such high temperatures in nearly 2 decades in some areas.
Yeah, that's right, depending on where you are. So starting in parts of eastern South Australia, much of northern and western Victoria and western New South Wales saw record temperatures today. A lot of Victoria saw their hottest day since the Black Saturday back in 2009, and parts of South Australia saw their hottest days for a number of days, years as well, I should say, as well. Some of those standouts include 49.6 degrees at Renmark, all-time record there, 48.6 degrees at Mildura, all-time record there, 48.9 degrees at Hopeton and Walpeup, and 49.1 degrees in Flowers Gap in New South Wales, with dozens of other January records and other all-time records broken through parts of eastern South Australia, western and northern Victoria and western New South Wales.
Well, the way our summer has gone so far, would you be surprised if these records are further broken in the coming weeks?
Yeah, look, it's not the other question, particularly in New South Wales, where the focus of the heat will actually shift back into western and northern New South Wales, southern inland Queensland and northern South Australia in the coming days. So we're likely to see more record temperatures occur there tomorrow. And then we're going to see that heat almost start to return back south through South Australia on Friday and into northern Victoria on Saturday, with another burst of mid to high 40 temperatures before finally a strong cold front will move through Saturday night and flush all the heat out of southeastern Australia and push it back into northern and western Australia. But as you mentioned, it's only February next week, so we're likely to see a few more bursts of heat before the summer is out later this year.
Well, for some places, I understand in Victoria at least, we're expected to see consistently high temperatures in their 40s for the rest of the week.
Yeah, that's right. So the southern parts of Victoria are going to see a cool change. It's already moving through southwestern Victoria, moved through Geelong recently. We'll move into Melbourne in another hour or so, and then I'll continue tracking through southern Victoria. But it's not going to travel far into northern Victoria. So for those kind of north of the ranges, and particularly along the Murray, we've got another 4 days of temperatures in the mid to high 40s. Mildura, for instance, they've got 43, 43, 45 and 46 the next few days. And then Albury, Wodonga, Corryong, they're looking at multiple days in the mid-40s as well through Saturday. So while it's cooler in southern Victoria, northern Victoria, unfortunately, is only about halfway through this record-breaking heat wave at the moment.
Dean, you also mentioned the cool change. Usually we expect the cool change to come about early evening, but we're seeing it come a little bit later than expected, or the temperature might not drop as low overnight as we might hope.
Yeah, it's just going to be a later change. You're right. Sometimes, particularly through the Melbourne area, we saw around that 5 or 6 o'clock, but we're looking at more 9 o'clock through the Melbourne area, and probably 10 o'clock for our northern and far eastern suburbs, and even later into parts of West and South Gippsland. So that just means we're definitely going to see a big drop. That change is causing about a 10-degree drop, but it's not a really strong one. So still going to be a warm night for many parts of Victoria, particularly northern Victoria, that's had that record heat today. So they're going to have a very hot night up through there, then a hot day tomorrow. But southern Victoria, we're going to see just a very gradual cooling as that cool change moves through overnight. And temperatures tomorrow through southern Victoria, generally in that low to mid 20 mark. So Melbourne 24, southwest Victoria low 20s, and maybe mid 20s away from the coast. Much cooler than what we saw today.
And how much attention should we be paying to the wind or gust factor?
Yeah, that's always important. As you heard earlier, those westerly winds and now southwesterly winds are now impacting those two out-of-control fires around the Otways area, and that's quickly pushing those fires towards the north and northeast and towards the east. So any residents and communities on the north or east side of these fires need to pay particular attention to the surroundings and also the Vic Emergency app in the coming hours, as those strong and gusty winds are likely to push those fires further to the north and east in the coming hours.
And does that also help determine how much smoke haze we experience? Should we expect that in the morning in some parts of the state?
Yeah, absolutely. So the northerly winds have been pushing that smoke out over Bass Strait late this afternoon, but now we've got west to southwesterly winds. It's trapped on the change, and that means it's going to move into the Melbourne area and central parts of Victoria with and behind the change as those southwesterly winds move in. So when residents and communities do open their house for that cooler air, particularly around the central parts of the state and around the Melbourne area, it's probably going to be associated with some fairly smoky and hazy conditions as well. So those with breathing difficulties will need to be a little bit more careful with that change, as smoke's likely to impact the Melbourne area with those southwesterly winds tonight and into tomorrow morning.